Welcome everyone to today's expert session with Tagmarshal. How Metedeconk National creates memorable member and player experiences while increasing efficiency. We're delighted to have Derek Kopp, the GM of Metedeconk, and Tyler Teynor, the head golf professional, with us today. Good day, gents. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning.
And we also have an old friend of ours, our Northeast rep, Bill Carroll, who's a little bit further north than the crew from New Jersey. Bill, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Good to be here.
You're not on a golf course. You're not on a golf course yet. That's reassuring.
Nice sunny day in the Berkshires.
Nice. Okay, gents. So we've got a few topics to walk through today. Not too many. We'll keep nicely on pace. And as always, anyone who has any questions, feel free to shoot them through. You can either use the chat box or you can use a Q&A. I think we've also got a little poll set up. To get things going, let's have a quick intro with our two guests. But first, tell us about your club and then tell us about yourselves and how you got to work at Metedeconk.
Sure. So Metedeconk National is a private 27-hole facility with probably one of the largest practice facilities in the country. You can see it in that photo on the background. Everything behind the clubhouse and to the left, that's all of our practice facility, driving range, short game area, uneven lies facility, etc. But we're a private club with 445 members. It's we were pretty much the second, third, fourth, fifth club for many of our members. Very low play, volume, 60 to 75 rounds a day on a busy day. And since the pandemic, things have changed. Our membership has changed a little bit, and we're starting to see we're normalizing now at about 80 to 140 rounds a day. My name is Derek Kopp. I'm the general manager at Metedeconk National. I started here in 2019. I started as the head golf professional, and then beginning of 2021, I was promoted to interim GM / head golf professional, and I brought on Tyler, who's with us, as my lead assistant, and then the club officially transitioned me into the GM role, and we officially transitioned Tyler into the head professional role. I've been a part of the New Jersey PGA section for the past 15 years. I had various assistant positions in the section prior to joining the team at Metedeconk. And outside of that, I'll let Tyler introduce himself.
Good morning. My name is Tyler Teynor. I'm the head professional at Metedeconk National Golf Club. Before coming to Metedeconk, I was the head professional at Seaview Golf Resort in Galloway, New Jersey for the last 6 years. And then prior to that, I spent 10 years in Florida at two clubs down south at Bella Colina and Reunion Resort. Other than that, I've been in the golf business for the last 16 years and very happy to be at Metedeconk and look for great things to come here.
Fantastic. Thank you, gents. And also well done on your upgrades within the club. That's always fantastic to see. And I'm sure it's well deserved. And also a smart move of the club to really bank on experienced hands at a time where things got really busy, right? So how have the last 2 years been for you guys at the club in terms of traffic and player volume and demand?
Yeah, so I hit on it a little bit before. My first season here in 2019, it was a huge change. I came from more of a family club, country club atmosphere, very busy, very active clubs. And I joined the team here, and, I walked around the first few months going, this is it. We had, 30 to, 50 rounds a day. We moved into the season and, you picked up a little bit, but I would say between Memorial Day and Labor Day, a busy Sunday was about 75 players. A busy Saturday was, low 90s, and a busy Friday was low 90s. And then weekdays were, anywhere between 30 and 50, 60 players tops. The pandemic hit in 2020. We shut down for the start of the season, and then when we reopened, we had twosomes every 16 minutes, and the tee sheet was packed. And from that point, as soon as we started to continue to open up and move forward, we were fortunate where a lot of clubs in the area, they had to limit guest play. We never limited the guest play. We've always had a very liberal guest policy. So with the liberal guest policy and new members and just people working from home, we were busy. We were doing anywhere from 160 to 200 rounds daily, which for 27 holes is still not busy, but for our operation and what we do on a day in, day out basis for every golfer that comes on property, it's a huge deal. So it was quite the shocker. So we were always looking at pace of play, and then this 2020 really drove us into making the decision to move forward with Tagmarshal, and we started the implementation process fall of 2020. That way we had a good handle on it for when we reopened in 2021. This year, we, as I mentioned, we normalized. We're more, anywhere between 80 to 100 weekday, and I would say Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we're right around that 100 to 140, 150 mark.
That is the new busy, but well done. Certainly from a results point of view, you timed things well. We can talk to that in just a minute. For those on the call who don't know Tagmarshal, because Derek's already started mentioning the technology. So we are a golf course optimization system specializing in anything on course, making the field flow smoother and operational efficiencies work better for the clubs. We're very fortunate in working with 30 of the top 100. That's including your really nice private league of clubs here, Oakmont, Hazeltine, Baltusrol, not too far from you guys in New Jersey. You yourselves are certainly top rated in the state, aren't you?
Yes, I think we're ranked 15 in the state.
And for good reason. But the nice thing for us is that we are equally at home in the daily fee space. So the resorts where it can get quite busy, there's your Pebble Beach and Erin Hills, Whistling Straits, and so on. And the clubs all have the same goals, which is create the best possible play experience and work efficiently, and obviously also looking to increase revenue where possible. We're also very fortunate to be tech partners to the European Tour, where they also take us along to some of their co-sanctioned tours in the US, and we work as data partners to the USGA or the RNA. So adding value and helping where we can. And obviously always delighted to have experts like yourselves on telling a little bit what you've learned and how you do things. So what we want to do to get started is just look at a bit of research. Which factors make or break the player experience, because player experience is paramount. And you'd probably agree that when it gets really busy, this is something that if you don't pay attention to it, starts to potentially wane a little bit in terms of the experience that clubs provide. So if it gets too busy, well, we may be dropping balls. And obviously we're trying to avoid that. So from your point of view, and also for me to try and get our audience involved a little bit, what would you say are the top 3 experience factors for players out of this list? That is random course design, conditioning, clubhouse and amenities, pace and flow of play, playing partners in my group, accessibility, tee time availability, cost/value. Derek, what would you say are the top 3 for you as a player, and also obviously having worked in the industry with hundreds of players over time?
So I would say in general, myself as a player, or what I see across the board in the golf industry, I would say it's course conditioning, pace of play, and I would be a toss-up between the between accessibility and cost value. However, for us being, a private facility and, the second, third, fourth club for a lot of our members, for us, I really believe that it's pace of play, course conditioning, and course design.
And from your perspective, Tyler, also having worked in Florida where things are a little bit different, lots of kart rounds and so on. So what would you say are the top three in your experience?
So I would say course conditions, pace and flow of play, and cost and value, because I worked at 2 resorts. Cost was definitely a factor.
So it's interesting. What do people attribute value to, right? And funny enough, it probably comes down to the conditioning again, right? And also the overall experience that we can have. So sometimes $300 is great value, and sometimes $30 is horrendous. It's too much because what I'm getting is really not up to scratch. Okay, we've had a few people click buttons on our poll here. Let me just share that quickly. We've got course conditioning, pace and flow of play come out tops, and then close to that, course design. Who designed Metedeconk? And you've got a whole lot of golf course, don't you?
We do. We're a Robert Trent Jones Sr., Roger Orlich design. It's one of the last properties that Robert Trent Jones Sr. actually stepped foot on towards the end of his career. So, we take pride in it being that RTJ Sr. golf course, and it's a lot of fun. It's a very good track, over 607 acres.
No, for sure. And we can already see the vegetation is quite something. We're going to take a look at this just now. So from a research point of view, the USGA has done broad-based research into this very question. What are the experience factors that matter most to players? And you're not surprised here. Obviously, both of you have said it, course conditioning rises very high, and pace and flow of play rises very high. In between that for players is who's in my group, right? Because nobody wants to play with that strange single that's just arrived. So if I'm out there for 4.5 hours, I want that to happen with good people, ideally. So who's in my group is a big factor too. No surprises. Then just sticking with the research here briefly, there is, and Tyler, I don't know if at the time that you were down in Florida playing at the resort or working at the resorts, if they already tracked the net promoter score. We're seeing quite a lot of the more guest geared clubs that we work with do that. So the net promoter score, you would know, is when a service provider, like an airline, for instance, asks you, would you recommend this service or this product to your friends and peers out of 10, where 0 is absolutely not, I hated it, and 10 is yes, I'm delighted, this is the best thing ever, right? And obviously that is something that golf clubs are starting to track, and there's various metrics that play into that, but the simplest one is what you recommended, was it good? And they found that there is a huge correlation between flow of play and the net promoter score. If the flow is good, the net promoter score is good. If the flow is bad, the net promoter score is bad. So it's directly correlated. And then the other research that came from the Golf Innovation Symposium showed that if players are feeling welcome, if there's a good flow out on the course, if they meet on-course staff, those are 3 of the key things, because remember, they spent most of their time at the club out on the course, right? So you want to make sure that you give them what they want, and they also have a bit of interaction. That means a high net promoter score. That means that they're recommending what they've experienced. And if they're not quite feeling welcome, there isn't good flow, they haven't met anyone out there to look after them, that means they didn't enjoy it. So at the Conk, I know that you're going the extra mile, obviously. And you have got quite a journey that you designed basically for your members and guests, as from arrival right through to them leaving. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think it's quite a special setup that you've created.
Sure. If you visit our website, you'll see on the website that we talk about the Metedeconk experience. And for us, everything starts from the drive-in. We have our gate at the front, and it's about a mile drive from the front entrance to the clubhouse, winding through a tree-lined driveway. And then once you get to the end of the tree-lined driveway, you see a 55-acre practice facility that just kind of hits you just as you turn the corner, and then you'll see the clubhouse in the background. Fast forward, you pull up and you pull around, and we start everything at valet. So we have valet service that we strongly encourage. And members and guests, they arrive, they pull up to valet, they're greeted at valet. For us, it's all about communication. So as soon as you get out of your car, our valet will pull your clubs from the trunk, greet you, welcome you to the club, explain where to go. You start walking away from your car, you're about 10, 15 feet away. Our valet will call out and just say, Mr. Smith, guest of Mr. Jones has arrived. Mr. Smith walks in through the front door. The golf shop is right there. Everybody knows. Now, Mr. Jones walks through the front door. Mr. Jones, welcome to Metedeconk. Have you ever been here before? No, I have not. Okay. Why don't you go ahead and head right through that doorway, go to the end of the hall, make a right. Once you get inside the men's locker room, make a left, and we'll have Dave Lees or Vince greet you inside the locker room. Dave Lees will put on his little show, escort him to the locker, get him all set, explain where to go next. They walk downstairs, they go out to the cart staging area where our director of outside operations will be waiting for him. Clubs are already on a golf cart, ready to go to the practice facility. Welcomes, Mr. Jones again. Your clubs are right over here. Why don't you go ahead, go around the back of the building and go out to the practice facility. Mr. Smith or Mr. Jones is waiting for you down there. They spend, their time warming up. We have our range manager down there. He'll guide them back up to the clubhouse about 10, 15 minutes before their tee time. They go out, they play golf. They have, great day on the golf course, come in, they have a bite to eat, whatever it may be. But one thing that we do a little bit differently is we make sure that they feel special when they leave. So as soon as we see the member or guest walking away, if they go to the back patio, now they're walking to go into the locker room to go grab their shoes and obviously exit, the radio call goes back out to valet, and valet knows that, Mr. Smith, guest of Mr. Jones, is going to be leaving the property. His car will be pulled up, clubs in the trunk. Mr. Smith walks in, grabs his shoes, walks upstairs, goes through the golf shop, say goodbye, walks out through the front door, and there's his car parked right in front, waiting for him with his trunk just kind of left open a crack so he could throw his shoes in, close the trunk, get in the car, drive right on it. So for us, it's all about that experience and really giving that experience to as many of our golfers as possible, which, when I start talking about the play numbers, you can see where the challenges are for the operation. That was easy when we had, 30 to, 70 rounds a day. And now that we're, around 100 plus a day, it's just a bigger stress to the operation, but it's something that's really important to us. And we really just try to put the best foot forward and continue with that Metedeconk experience and get them, on their way, feel welcome and feel like they want to come back.
Yeah, talk about feeling welcome. I really love that. And thanks for walking us through it. You also mentioned that you're making sure that they have a great time out there. Now, out there at Metedeconk is quite a thing because for one, you've got 27 holes, but also they are immensely spread out, right? We're gonna show a map of it just now, but I think this picture probably captures it a little bit. What we want to start with now is, you've obviously invested in some technology to help you run your operation and optimize and at the turn of the tide, really, because if it gets busy, like you said, it's so much tougher to ensure that you've got the right service levels. And also, you can't just all of a sudden magic up another 30, 40, 50 staffers to get things done, right? You probably have quite a lean contingent, and you want to make sure that you get the most out of the people you have. So from a tech point of view, if you'll allow me just to quickly explain, so where Tagmarshal helps is we are tracking playing groups, and that can be walkers or it can be cart play. At Metedeconk, we are tied into your caddy program, which maybe Tyler, you can explain briefly how that works. But basically, tracking movement of playing groups, and then that information gets sent to our system, and then the system displays it and calculates where everyone is, but also any challenges in terms of holdups and delays as they arise, before they arise, and serves that up to the team. So Tyler, from your side, running things, who's all plugged into this at the Conk?
So our director of outside operations, he has the software put on the computer downstairs. So when he issues the walking Tagmarshal to the caddy, he will put a number with the caddy. So that way, if we need to go out and find them or track them, see what their pace is, that we can then look at the computer, know where they are, and know when they're going to make the turn, know when they're going to maybe be behind play or ahead of pace. So if we need to send a group out, maybe off a different 9 that we might not have done, we can do that. So it really is helpful to Jeff and our team that we can locate where people are, and it also helps, kind of with the pace of play.
Yeah, I think this is sort of the bird's eye view of Metedeconk, and you can already see how spread out things are. So we've a huge area, dense forest, and 3 nines. So Tyler, I know that you're fairly new, but how did you used to try and manage this massive space and having players that are literally in a different state from one 9 to the next? Derek, like back in the day before you had tech, that must have been quite a challenge.
It was literally paper and pencil, writing it down, sending staff out to see what their pace is, giving pace checks. So it really took a lot of extra effort to get all of that information. And technology is the new thing, and it's definitely growing, and it's the real deal, and it'll definitely be moving forward to help with pace of play.
Thanks. So I think maybe if you'll allow me just very quickly to show what you and the team can see. This is an example on the left here. So here's some playing groups as they're moving through the course, and it's very easy to see that this group number 17, because it's big and it's pink or magenta, like that sticks out. And why? Because they're out of position, they're slow, they're holding up these 2 groups behind them. They're holding them up, so that means that we want to show that these guys are being held up, so they're orange. And the green groups on the Tagmarshal system are good or even ahead of pace. Then also what we can show is who's in the group. You've got a T-sheet integrated, don't you, at the Conk?
We do.
What's the sheet that you use?
We use Club Essential is our point of sale system that integrates with our T-sheet.
Yeah, so Club Essential feeds now straight from the T-sheet into the system, so that Tyler and the team would know who are the names, who's in the group. Also, is it a guest? Is it a member? Who is it? And also, what time did they start? Where are they right now? How far off are they? And also, what was their trend like the last few holes that they've played? Maybe it's starting to get worse. So this is a lot of information that you just have available now at your fingertips. How do you then go about addressing issues when they arise? And maybe also, before we go there, before we go into the detail, maybe let's take a step back. Derek, when you made a decision to want to go and do this better and also make things a bit easier for yourselves, what was the process that you went through, and how did the club decide, okay, this is actually worth doing? Like we want to do our service levels justice on the course, and it's the right thing to do for our members. Was this a difficult process for you, or is that something that you got buy-in quite quickly?
It was probably the easiest process to buy into. we already had, so Tagmarshal was on our radar. We have members who are members at various other clubs, and they've been members at clubs that also use Tagmarshal. So, we had that discussion at the board level, even 2019, however, with 40 to 75 rounds a day, it's hard to justify, spending, money on pace of play when, most days we have a few groups out there. I mean, you could play you used to be able to play in 5.5 hours and you'd never see anybody in front of you, never see anybody behind you, and you're not holding anybody up. But of course, you had the few issues from time to time, and that's when the conversations, began. But I would say that, in all honesty, it's from that increased level of play, going from 40 to 75 rounds a day to 140 to 200 a day. You couldn't play in 5.5 hours. We just simply had too many golfers on the golf course. We couldn't have the log jam. So to have our members buy into it was very simple. Everybody was, tired of seeing that, 4 hour, 45-minute round, 5-hour round. So we just, at the end of 2020, we decided to go ahead and say, you know what, let's just go ahead, let's invest in the software. We began the process. And we actually started to tag just to get all the information and start loading everything for your setup process. We noticed almost immediately a placebo effect where, members and guests knew that they were being tracked. Caddies knew that they were being tracked. So it started a whole buzz around the club where nobody wanted to play slow because they knew that we were actually tracking them, and there was a tracker out there that could tell us that they were slow at any given point in time. So, I mean, for the buy-in, it was very simple. It was just increased play volume. And then just from there, it was just making sure that we did the correct implementation, started it in the fall. And that way for 2021, we had the process down. It was very simple. Our outside operations team knew exactly how to move forward with it. And, I believe you're going to show the numbers later so you could see what it did. I mean, Metedeconk is a very difficult golf course. If anybody's on this and they've played, they know it's tree lined, it's tough, and it's hard to get players to play in under 4.5 hours, especially if you bring guests who don't play very often. It's a very difficult place. So for us, we put in place a hard line of 4 hours and 30 minutes. I think the system's set up at 4:17, where we start getting the warnings, but we actually have our policy is you must play in 4 hours 30 minutes or less. And like I said, we'll get to the data in a little bit, but you can show where we came in at.
We certainly will. Thanks, Derek. That's really interesting to see. So from your side, you thought it was a good move and a fairly smooth way in. So this is one of the screens that is available on the system that we call a track map. You can see how this group moved through here, 2 of your nines here. The nines are marked with different colors, and they're coming in at 419, which is just over where you want them. But I do think that they may have held up a few people along the way. So this is information that's available on every single round that gets played post round, every single one. So this is where, Tyler, you mentioned earlier, it's obviously quite different to the pen and paper effort, because pen and paper is where information and data normally goes to die, right? Because who's got time to go and analyze and compile it? Like it's just impossible. So this is where we're obviously hoping to make things quite a bit easier for you. Tyler, from your point of view, I know that you have and have in the past also had quite strict rules around it, because it is important, and you want to do the right thing for the majority of your players and for the majority of your members. So how are you going about enforcing that, and how's it been going for you guys this season?
So we basically created a 3 strikes rule. So basically the first time that they played in over 4 hours and 30 minutes, we would send out a letter, just a generic letter that we drafted up from the director of our outside operations, and he would send it out, just basically stating that, Mr. Jones, you've now played in 4 hours and 36 minutes. Our scheduled pace of play is 4 hours and 30 minutes. We would just like to, let you know that you were over the allotted time for today. And then the second strike then becomes from the golf shop. The letter then becomes a little more kind of enforced, just letting them know that, again, you've played in over 4.5 hours. We would like, for you to be conscious of what's going on around you, kind of figure out some different procedures to help you play a little faster. The third letter then comes from myself. And in that letter just basically states that we would like to schedule a time, to maybe do an on-course lesson, or, give you some other tips to help you play in less than 4.5 hours. And it's been very well received. I haven't sent more than 2 letters, so there's not been more than 2 letters to the same member. Again, the information's in there, and as long as you can provide it to them, it takes away what they think they're playing, because the facts are the facts. And it's really made everyone else extremely happy around the club. You're always going to have 1 or 2 slow players at the club. It's just who they are. But it really kind of forces everyone to play a little bit faster, to, enjoy the full Metedeconk experience day in and day out.
I think what
the best part is,
yep.
Go ahead. The best part is that, each player, it will create a profile for them. So we can go back and see that when Mr. Jones and Mr. Smith play together, that they play in 4 hours and 36 minutes. But when Mr. Jones and Mr. Kopp play, they're playing at 4 hours and 12 minutes. So, you can kind of gauge, and when you put members and guests on the tee sheet, you can kind of figure out when they should be put in and when they shouldn't be put in, to not make the rest of the day miserable for everybody else.
No, that's
They
what
just know I'm a fast player.
with the yeah, I was just saying, clearly Mr. Kopp needs to play more golf and be grouped in with more people. Nicely played. I think it's great. Here's an example of one of the players and their profile. They played 38 rounds, and you can see immediately how many of those were on pace, how many of the times were they the delayer, meaning their group was holding up others. And what I really like is that while you have quite a firm stance on it, you're actually really supportive of the players in terms of, we'll even go out with you. Let's find out where you're falling off. How can we help you get better? How can we even give you a lesson? I think this is fantastic. And I can see how it's so well received by the players, because nobody wants to hold up other people and frustrate them, right? So I think that's a really good system that you put in play. What some of our partners do, they actually put a big screen TV up at the clubhouse, especially around the 18th. So when people are coming back, then there's that level of self-policing that happens. Nobody wants to be that big pink icon that's walking towards the clubhouse, right? The other members or players will take a good look at them. So and that helps. You mentioned the placebo effect earlier, but the moment that there's information and facts and an even playing field, that's when people become more accountable. I think we're leading into this next point quite nicely in terms of your member experiences, especially when it comes to the things that are harder to control, or used to be traditionally, which is what happens on the course, and when do we get those 5-hour rounds happen. So Derek, you mentioned some of the data. So this is Metedeconk's month of July. It was quite a busy month. This is split out into different days. And then we're looking at rounds that start on the first hole, the 10th hole, or the last hole. So in our world, we're always assuming that somebody may play 9. And if they keep moving, then we're adding them together to 18. So obviously that lends itself to a 27-hole setup too. The other things we look at is what's the hole by hole stats in terms of the original data or the setup that you believe the club should be played in. And then we're tracking against that. And we're also tracking the starter accuracy in terms of, are they getting people out on time? Because often that's where an issue may start. But you mentioned it earlier, in a busy season now, where your time that you want to work towards is 4:30, but you're holding yourselves to higher standards and saying, we're actually going to track 4:17. You came through that month at 4:15. And it must be immensely reassuring that all the effort you're putting in is paying off like this, to really have things run like clockwork. It must be quite fun to then also report that back to the board and to your membership. And they're actually all contributing towards that, aren't they?
Sorry.
You broke out for a second. I didn't hear that last part.
Sorry. I mentioned that when you're reporting back to your board or maybe also your membership, it's probably helpful, obviously, to have these stats for certain and to know that your performance as a group, as everyone at Metedeconk has been going so well.
Absolutely.
So
It's
that's
great.
yeah. Well done to you and the team for getting results like that. It's fantastic. The last point is how members and guests have responded, because obviously you have to have a tough conversation with a few people to make everyone else happy. And I know that you've learned quite a bit in terms of what's possible and what works, and how to get the most out of the system for your players, but obviously also creating the best possible experience. So what has the members' reception been, the members and players?
From my point of view, I have not heard many complaints on pace of play this year. And being that, my first 2 seasons, you hear it often, 2019, even though it wasn't, a thing, most days we can get by without anything. I heard more complaints in 2019 than I did in 2021. 2020, it was just a daily, barrage. Pace is off, too slow every single day. And it's all right. Yeah, we're on it. I sent somebody out there, blah, 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 blah. But it was so hard to enforce this over 607 acres. So like I said, and Tyler hinted on it, it's, you go from, all right, let's go ahead, let's implement Tagmarshal. The placebo effect of just putting the tags out there, even though we weren't really doing anything about it, we started to notice a much better pace out there. Start of the season, everybody knew that, the word was out. Oh, we're being tracked. Pace of play was pretty good. Then you start to get a little bit more comfortable with it. So then you get the guests and members and guests are a little bit more, we're being tracked, but who cares? It's forgotten. Then Tyler started having the outside operations send those little reminder notes. Although you didn't hold up any groups today, we want to remind you we want to let you know that you played in 4 hours and 32 minutes. Although it doesn't seem like, that big of a deal, it can essentially have this effect on the tee sheet, and kind of run through it. Now, all of a sudden, the buzz was out that not only are we tracking, we're following up. So I think, the big lesson to learn is the technology is great. The data is great. Just having it out there is great. But then at some point in time, it's up to us to use the data. You can't just rely on just the data and just say, okay, we're tracking it. You need to use the data to go ahead and get ahead of any potential pace of play issues on a daily basis. And then on a larger scale, send the letters, the reminders to let them know that we are enforcing it, and this is why we're enforcing it. You don't have to come off as you know, a hard ass. You can come off and just make it a very nice, you know, approach where it just so you know, we want to let you know that your pace of play was X today, and you know, the acceptable pace of play at Metedeconk is this. You know, please inform your guests. Here are some best practices, you know, to help improve pace of play moving forward.
Yeah, and to piggyback off what Derek's saying, you know, initially the first couple of months, it was the emails were going out very, very rapidly. And I'll never forget, we had to send a letter out to our golf chairman, who was adamant that the system be put in place, and he was very not happy when he received the email saying he played in 4.5 hours. And he's one of the faster players out here. It's just the three other players he played with that day were not playing as fast as he would like, and so he got the email as well. The other is the cottage letter. We have 2 8-bedroom cottages that are on property. So a lot of our members will have clients or guests down to, you know, spend a few days here and play golf. And one of the members had 16 players down, and we have their information, and the groups were playing in longer than 4.5 hours. So an email went out, and it went to our member's secretary, and she immediately got on the phone, called and apologized and said this will never happen again. So it's not only for our members, it's for our guests as well. So it's the buzz that's getting out, and it's going to continue to let people know that we're, you know, a club that plays in less than 4.5 hours.
Yeah, and again, well done for backing it up, but because like you say, you can have the best system in the world. If you don't use it and if you don't act on it, then it's just going to tick over in the background and it's not going to have any impact. So you've done that really well. That cottage letter is a great story. And we've got quite a few resorts that we work with that obviously provide accommodation to guests as well. And I know that one of the things that they try and find out is how has this group of players played here before, you know, what's their ability like, what's their fitness like even, so that they can allocate them to appropriate tee times where they're not going to cause too much pain to their field. And I know that you have got a huge advantage, obviously knowing all your members and really getting smart around who's floating to the top as a fast player, not just anecdotally, but based on information, and also who are the people that are potentially challenging, and then putting them into appropriate tee times as well. So I hope that your chairman still gets the early tee times after he got that letter.
He does.
But that was great that the proof of them was in the pudding, right, on the day for him too. And he may not have liked it, but it actually must be reassuring.
And I will say, to be honest, I think we get a lot more thank yous for the letters than negative. You know, it's one of those things, and I try to tell the staff here, you know, we have certain rules. You know, you can't be on your cell phone while walking around the clubhouse, you know, around the clubhouse. You know, you can't wear a hat inside the clubhouse, pace of play, whatever it may be. You know, everyone initially thinks that the reaction is going to be a negative reaction. More often than not, when you ask a guest or a member to remove their hat, it's, oh, I'm so sorry, you know, or if you tell them to please take the call inside the locker room, oh, I'm so sorry. You send out the letter. A lot of it was thank you. It was actually really nice to see.
Yeah, and very true, because if somebody may have had an off day, but they don't want to be held up by others, right? So they know what it feels like, and they're probably grateful that you did it so kindly as well. And I think that's certainly a smart move. Gents, I think we're at on the 45-minute mark, 46. We're 1 minute out. You must forgive me there. This was a fantastic conversation. Let me see if there's any questions that anyone has in the audience. Feel free to shoot them through the Q&A. Bill, if you're still with us and able to talk. If you have any questions or any observations, I know that you chat to many, many clubs up in the Northeast. Do jump in.
Yeah, no, what I would like to say is that what both of these gentlemen are saying is that there's a real accountability with the system. It's kind of a quid pro quo, and we're not in the business of policing. We're in the business of assisting. So when you have the data at your fingertips and you can go out to talk to a member with a tablet in your hand, you let the data, the map tell the story. And like Derek was saying, I mean, it's a self-policing system where people don't want to be embarrassed, and that's why they're getting the thank yous. It's really a win-win for the player and the management of the club.
There's one question that has popped up. The pace aside, has the system allowed your team to operate more efficiently? I think, Tyler, you mentioned the line of sight and knowing where people are. Like, is this something that that is useful to your staff?
Yes, and because we don't have a beverage cart service, when members call and want food or drinks ran out to them, I can just walk downstairs and know that, you know, Mr. Smith is in tag 17 and he's on the 24th hole. I know where I'm going. It's not just, you know, let's just drive all 27 holes until I find him. So it's definitely beneficial to use it for not only pace of play, but for finding members, or if a guest is requesting to be picked up because they have to leave, you can use it for that as well.
I'll put on the GM hat for a second and kind of step away from golf, but from a food and beverage standpoint, it's actually great because we download the software onto some of the computers, you know, within the clubhouse and around the F&B operation and down at the halfway house. They can pull it up and they can see that, oh, you know, Mr. Smith and his guests are going to be making the turn in, you know, 10 minutes. That way they know that they're going to be there in 10 minutes. They need to go walk away for a minute. They know not to expect anybody. So it does help, you know, flow with the entire operation as far as, you know, what's happening, when people are going to be in. You know, it really does help us time things a little better. And, you know, when you have an event, you know, it just helps with getting the food out and timing the food going to the back patio. So you're not putting something out, it's going to get cold. Turns out the next group's not going to be in until, you know, for another half hour. It's like we can time things accordingly.
No, those are great points. And I'm sure it also helps your personalized service, seeing that you're carrying people's names right across past the halfway and into all corners of the club. Here is one question that somebody's asking. Can Tagmarshal track your maintenance staff or the machinery? That is something that we can do, yes. Is that something that you guys do as well? Do you have any tracking on maintenance stuff?
We don't track. It's actually something we talked about. We don't track our superintendent or his staff. However, our superintendent does use it to track play. So he'll use it, you know, in reverse to go ahead and say, all right, well, I know I can go ahead and I have a gap here where I can water. I have a gap here where, you know, I can send the mowers out to you know, fly mow the bunker edges or whatever it may be. So he can use it to go ahead and find out where the gaps are on hot days and this, that, the other thing.
Well, that's efficiency for them too. That's great. That's great to hear. Okay, I think we're on the 50 minutes. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. And I'm very glad that we got a few questions in and you answered them so eloquently. Super happy with you having made yourself available. What's ahead now for the last few weeks of the season? When are you wrapping up, and are you taking some time off?
We'll be wrapping up here December 12th, shut down for 3 months. And I will be, we actually have a course renovation project going on our middle nine. So currently our middle nine is shut down. So I'll be around. Tyler will be in, you know, from time to time to check in on it and, you know, help manage that project. We have various other projects, potential learning center going in this winter at the practice facility. So, you know, a lot of big things on the horizon, a lot of projects, but it'll keep us busy this winter. But at the same time, it's nice to be closed, have 3 months where, you know, we're shut down and we can kind of come and go down to Florida, go on a few trips, escape the weather and enjoy life before rocking and rolling again.
Yeah, we do hope to catch up with you at the PGA show. We're certainly going to be there. And I do hope the weather plays along with your renovation, because it can get in the way and then delay things. So all the best, gents. Thank you so much for your time and the insight. It's been great fun. And
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Have a good holiday.
thanks. And yeah, next week, Thanksgiving, and then hoping to meet you in person. I don't know, some of our team have, but I haven't, down at the PGA show in Orlando. All the best, gents.
Take care. Thank you.
Take care.